Okay.
Come on. Live, our host with the most on each Monday that brings in communication with self is no one other than Ori. Welcome, 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 welcome. We are live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with Ori. It is Monday. Happy Monday. Happy beginning of the week. It is so important that we pay homage to every day, but always mostly on the beginning of the week, because that will determine how our week will continue to be. Today's subject of what I want to talk about is respecting boundaries. what I what I've noticed when it comes to people is that people don't really respect boundaries as they should. And that's something that is very important for us, which is to respect each other's space and respect each other's boundaries, and know when we are crossing the line by making stupid comments or derogatory comments or insolent comments to the people that we're with, or family, or whoever. I think that we tend to be one of the rudest countries in the world because we have been taught to like basically live with closed doors and not really socialize with your neighbors. I socialize with my neighbors because the ones that I have are really kind and really good people. And this is Coffee with Ori, but today Ori feels like having some wine, a glass of white wine, and I had a piece of baguette with brie. Hey, Yete, how you doing? With some brie cheese and apple butter. Fabulous. Nothing better than brie and that. Miss Sadia, I know you've been calling me. I haven't ignored you, but I was in Miami for like since Thursday, and I came back and I have been exhausted, but I've been working today, so it's been a little crazy. Arrivederci. Mm. So if you didn't hear, today's subject is about boundaries, about crossing boundaries, and about respecting boundaries, people's boundaries. You know, when we talk about boundaries, the first thing that we assume is that, well, for you guys to see, look, this is me at 55, and hopefully this will be me, and then it'll be like this, so then I'll be again like 25. Just a joke, guys. Uh, Crossing boundaries, what I was saying is that the United States has to be one of the rudest countries in the world. Highlands, and because the United States is kind of like the most rudest, the most rudest country in the world, we tend to, hey, salud. eh, we sometimes tend to allow people to overstep those boundaries. Okay. I noticed here while I was taking the train, I saw some men, couples, and they were talking to their girlfriends because they weren't wives, however they wanted to. And I just thought that was kind of rude that the man would actually talk to a woman that way. But I actually blame the woman for allowing the man to talk to them that way. Because when a man shuts you down, or like I tell women all the time, when a man calls you out your name one time, that's when you need to go tell him to go fry some potatoes somewhere else. Because at the end of the day, when you're a couple and you're an adult, you're not dealing with children, you're dealing with adults. And adults should always have the ability, or be able to be strong enough to have the ability to sit someone down and break things down. Part of this rudeness also has a lot to do with throwing shit in people's faces. Now, if you want to not be my friend, the worst thing you could do is throw shit in my face, because I won't throw anything in your face because I don't believe in that. But the minute you do, I can't hang with you, because a man doesn't do that to a woman, especially if it's a good woman. And a woman doesn't do that to a man, especially if he's a good man. Yeah, Fernandez. Yai Fernandez? Hello. So that to me is what we talk about crossing boundaries. Crossing boundaries is not always about overstepping. Sometimes crossing boundaries is the lack of respect that a person may have for another human being, because they don't know any better. And I know that sometimes when people are changing and they're going through some type of emotional breakthrough, it takes time for them to understand it. And also it takes time for them to actually make the proper change within their heart, because they're so used to being such dicks that they don't understand that if you're trying to heal, you can't be a dick. For all you people that are out there, let me tell you something. I love white wine, and I know Yellowtail is not the best wine. This is Pinot Grigio. I like Pinot Grigio and Chardonnay. My address, I'll give it to you. I want to send me a bottle. I'm fine. Okay. Now, with this crossing boundaries, parents sometimes cross boundaries with children. And what I mean by that is, the expectation that a parent may have for a child may be so big that particular idea that they have for their child, it's crossing boundaries. Sometimes, you can raise a child to a certain degree, to a certain point, and then you have to let it go, because you can't control what other people are thinking, and you can't control people when they don't respect you. And part of respecting is being able to understand that they cannot cross that boundary by thinking that because you're kind to them and you're open with them, that you are their friend. You're not the friend. The parent is a parent, is not a friend. Women have to understand that although men may seem rough in the outside, they're very sensitive inside. And a lot of men are very sensitive. And that is why they become dicks and they start yelling at their girlfriends or their wives or making stupid comments, because they're broken inside, and then they want their wives or girlfriends to be just as broken as them. That's a no-no, guys. You guys really have to step it up, and you have to learn to get out of those old behaviors, because let me tell you something, crossing other people's boundaries and putting people in a box, thinking that you lose yourself for a minute, thinking that you're in the past where you can just talk to people however you want. No, when you're dealing with an adult, the one thing that an adult wants in their life, male or female, is peace of mind. So because you want peace of mind, why the hell would you allow someone to talk to you any which way or yell at you if you have worked so hard to have peace of mind? Why would you allow that? And I'm not asking you this question because I want an answer. I'm asking you this question because I want you to think about that for a minute. I'm a man, regardless of what I like. I'm a man, and I can get very stupid sometimes. But I've learned to check myself before I open my mouth, and before I say something to someone. I always check myself. The one thing that I don't do, I don't throw things in people's faces. I don't believe in that. That's a no-no. I don't lie to people that I care about. I try not to lie at all. So I don't lie to people that I care about. And if you can't talk to me in a civil way, then I don't need you in my life. because that's crossing boundaries, and I will not allow anyone to cross that boundary. I don't care if we have a 20-year-old friendship or a 30-year-old friendship. I will cut you in a minute. I will cut you off, and I won't be bothered. So for you guys out there, I'm just letting you know it's something that I saw. It's not something that I heard. It's something that I saw on the train going to Miami, because I had a very, very busy weekend in Miami. And I saw a lot of crazy shit on the train, and it's not cute, because the devil is busy. And when people tell you that you're gonna go straight to hell, well, there ain't nothing in hell, because all the damn demons are already out. So you don't got to worry about going to hell, because hell's empty. Shit, you might as well buy a condo there and stay there and be happy, because they're all out. I mean, they're all out. People are out. So this is about crossing boundaries. It's not. It's for men who have been trying to be present in their children's lives, and for some reason or another, the children push them away, and then they become adults, and then it's like F daddy and F mommy. You know what? That's another boundary you don't cross. It is your duty as a parent to even to call every now and then, just to say, how you doing, how you feeling. That's it. You don't have to get into their personal space. You don't have to get into their personal life. You don't have to ask them personal questions, because that is crossing the line. You don't do that. You don't cross lines. You have to make sure you stay in your lane if you want things to move forward. But communication is the key. Last time we talked about love, but communication is the key, and I'm going to explain to you why. If you cannot communicate with your partner in a moment of time, because there is no communication without yelling, then you need to be alone. And if you are not alone and you're with that person because you fear being alone, that speaks volumes of how much you care about yourself. And that's not them crossing boundaries. That's you crossing your own boundaries. And the boundaries that you set for yourself, you cross them because you feel that if you stay quiet enough, it won't continue, but it still continues. It still continues. That is why I'm a strong advocate. I'm a strong advocate, and Dr. D can tell you this, I'm a very strong advocate for women. And I always tell women, when you're with a man, you make sure you have your own bank account, and you make sure he has his own bank account, and then you have a house account. So that way you guys can share the house account, but he doesn't have to know your account, and she doesn't have to know yours. Just like if you have two cars, you're going out to a party. You don't always have to take one car, take two. Because that way, whenever the hell you feel like leaving, you can just leave. Don't ever put yourself in a situation, anybody, men or women, never put yourself in a situation where you're going to have someone cross boundaries and talk to you about what they feel and what they don't feel. Because if someone is holding so much inside that when they explode and they throw it in your face, that just shows that person doesn't trust you enough to tell you how they felt and how they feel when they're going through something. And if you cannot talk to your partner or family or friends or people that you care about that are like family, if you cannot talk to them and tell them how you're feeling at that moment, then why even bother to waste their time? Because honestly, it's a waste of time to be with someone for 10 years and not know that your partner's an asshole. And then when you do realize, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that this happened to me. Well, you know what? The world is filled with assholes, and the world is crumbling. So if you don't learn how to fix and create certain boundaries with each other and be able to sit down and conversate about the littlest, stupidest things. Because to me, the best time to conversate is when you're in bed with someone. When you're laying in bed with someone, it's the best time to talk about everything. Talk about how your day went. Talk about, stuff, stupid stuff. Make yourselves laugh. Act like little kids. Spoon, and then go to bed. To me, that's the best time to talk. Because me personally, I don't want to hear about what the hell what's happening in your job the minute you walk through that damn door. Not if I cooked for you, and I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear you had a bad day, because they're not bad days. There's only bad people and bad situations. They're not bad days. Every day is a good day. And if you can't appreciate the day that you're with, then you know what? Take a sleeping pill. Go back to sleep. Wake up the next day to see how you feel then. All of these things are boundaries, and people need to learn them. Crossing boundaries, people's boundaries. This is my own story, so I'm gonna explain something to you, because I people who know me for a long time, like Miss Sadia and Dr. D and other people, they know that I can be really nasty. And when I'm dating someone, it's not in my best interest to want to meet their families. I could care less. I am the way that I am with mine. I treat everybody with respect. I treat everybody with love. But if I'm dating you, and you didn't have the decency to introduce me to your family from the beginning, then why would I want to meet them? I wouldn't want them. I wouldn't want to meet them. I wouldn't want to hang out with your family. I wouldn't want to socialize with your family. So, if that was the case, I'll be socializing with mine, and mine are tragic. So why would I want to? Again, crossing boundaries. You have to set ground rules from day one. It's like Cardi B said, I like making money moves. Yeah. Well, it's the same thing like in a relationship. You have to set the bar as high or as low as you want to. If you set the bar low, they can easily walk over you or walk on top of you. But if you set the bar high, then you'll have the respect that you deserve, and so will they. But you ladies, if you guys don't start stepping up, you don't watch. I don't watch the news, but I do read articles, and I have the Wall Street Journal on my phone, so I read articles. And at the end of the day, when I'm reading some of these articles and they're talking about abortion, if that goes through, it's gonna push back progress 20 years or 30 years back. And of course, once they finish with you people, then they're gonna start with the gay people. And then that's gonna be a big problem. So don't become a victim because you have chosen not to set boundaries. Every relationship has to have their own boundaries. Every relationship has to put their foot forward. Every relationship, whether it's a father and son, a father and a daughter, a mother and a son, a mother and a daughter, and if you're doing the best you can to be a good parent, and it's not reciprocal, you know what? Sometimes you just have to leave it, let go, and let God take care of it for you, because sometimes you can't handle it all. And sometimes you shouldn't want to handle it all. Now, another thing about boundaries is when you are with your family members, and their opinions towards your partner matter more than your opinion towards your partner. That's another crossing boundaries, which you don't do. I'm not telling you to choose your family over your partner, but I'm telling you that there is a time and a place for everything, and there is a place and a time for everything. So you have to learn how to balance everything out perfectly so that nobody oversteps their boundaries with each other. And family are good for that. Family are good for loving your partner today, and the minute you guys have a fight, the next thing they say, oh, well, I never really liked him, or I never really liked her. That's crossing the line. That's crossing boundaries. You don't do that. You have to really make sure that you are on top of everything, even at work. A lot of people have this fear when they have these bully bosses that they don't sit down with their bosses and talk to them. You need to sit down with them. The minute they come out their face, you got to sit down with them, and you have to let them know you made this comment in the meeting, and I didn't appreciate it, because you overstep your boundaries, and at the end of the day, you don't respect me, so you need to stay in your lane and not cross over, because I will take you to human resources. And a lot of people these days don't do that because they are so afraid of everything that's going on around that they don't see it. They don't see all the things that are happening around them because they choose to ignore. They choose to ignore. You can't ignore everything that's happening around you. You can't do that. You can't just pretend that nothing is happening when you have a boss that's a dick. You can't do that. You have to make sure that you address the situation right there and then, so that they don't overstep, because if you don't address it right there and then, they're going to do it again. And then when they're going to do it again, they're going to do it worse. And then every time you ignore it, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And they're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to stop them. And then in return, instead of you going to human resources for them, they will go to human resources for you. So my suggestion is, people need to communicate with themselves. People need to have that really big conversation, and people need to be, as spiritual human beings that we all are, please don't ask for no damn advice if you're not going to take it. Don't ask for a solution if you're not going to take it. Because I have found myself in the past giving people advice and they don't take it, not for nothing, but there are moments that you give people advice and they call you or they text you, and they're not paying you for the advice. You're giving them advice out of the kindness of your heart. So not me. You call me for some advice, I'm gonna charge you, and you're gonna pay me for the advice, because I don't play that stupid shit. I'm gonna give you advice. I'm going to talk to my spirit guide to come down to help you to resolve a problem. And you're not gonna do it, then you know what? You're not gonna play games. You may not respect them, but I do, and I respect myself enough that if you're gonna say something, you're gonna pay for my time. People will go to other places and get charged $500, and they're like, "Oh my God, they told me the same thing you did." And and I'm how much was the reading? $500, but it's okay. Yeah, but yeah, you bitched. When I charged you $25, you bitched. So, ladies and gentlemen who read, or people who are spiritual, even if you're inclined on a spiritual level to talk to someone, always understand that you cannot cross certain boundaries with people. There are certain people that are receptive to spirituality, and there are certain people that are susceptible to spirituality, but they don't want to hear shit. They want you to tell them, but then of course if something happens, then you're the one to blame because you made it happen. That's how ignorant is. Ignorance is a big key that plays in the role of stepping out or stepping over your boundaries. That's why my favorite little thing that I say all the time: ignore the ignorance of the ignorant. Because sometimes you just have to ignore the ignorance of the ignorant. And it is important that you realize, or you make sure that you're not the ignorant one. And also realize that if you don't put the stop to the ignorance, that it will continue and it will grow and it will fester in you, and it will make you sick because you will hold it and hold it and hold it and hold it. And when things get worse, you're just holding on to this pain and sorrow that you caused yourself. So boundaries are very important, to set them, and not just set them, but also have control of them. Boundaries are called boundaries for a reason, which is to create a safe space for yourself without drama, without inconsistencies, without lies, without foolishness. This is why you set boundaries. And that's why I said, most of us are old enough to know that if we didn't want to deal with bullshit when we were younger, why at this time in our lives, at this age, we're going to allow people to bring their negative self, their negative tragedies, and try to make it our tragedies when in reality they're not. If you really pay attention to what's going on around you, you realize that you have the key and you hold the key and you hold the answers to everything that's going on in your life. Wrong or right, you hold the keys. You know, I was talking to someone which I think was Saudi or something like that. I was talking to about when I used to get high as a kid, I was a teenager, and and I stopped at a very young age, but I still consider myself an addict because there are times that I can actually taste cocaine in the back of my throat, and I can taste heavy alcohol in my breath, and that is because on a psychological level, I am still an addict, and I have to understand that. I'm not putting that label, but I have to be realistic, and that's a boundary that I cannot cross, because the minute I cross it, I won't know when to stop. And it doesn't matter if you say, oh, well, I'm just going to have one drink, or I'm going to have two drinks, or I'm going to sniff a little bit and just but I can stop. I'm never going to. No. If you stop something, let it go, work on it, work on yourself, understand that you're still in healing. And if you're not healed, then guess what? You're crossing boundaries. You're crossing your own boundaries. You don't need that. There's so many scenarios that can be talked about that have to do with boundaries, not just one, two, or three. Cheating husband, boundaries. Cheating women, boundaries. Women who know that their husband is cheating and they accept it, that's crossing boundaries, and you allowing them to cross the boundary and you accepting it. And that is why they continue to do it. But if you sit people down, the minute you know the truth, you know your own truth, then you break it down and you set your own boundaries of what you won't accept in your life. And then they won't do it. And if they do it, well, then you know what? You sit them down again. And then by the third time you sit them down and they're not paying attention, they're still crossing boundaries, it's time to go. It doesn't matter if you've been married a year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, 5 months. When you got to let something go, you let it go. When it's not convenient for you, you let it go. You don't have to talk to a person all the time when you're with them. You can talk to them. If they live with you, yeah. But if they don't live with you, it's not mandatory for you. It's not a life sentence for you to talk to them 5 times a day. Because honestly speaking, what the hell do you have to talk about your partner with about 5 or 6 times a day? About what? If I get up and I make you breakfast or I make you coffee and you drink your coffee and you go to work and I go to work and we say goodbye and we kiss each other, we sleep together and all this stuff, why do I need to call you 5 times a day? I don't need to call you 5 times a day. That's crossing a boundary. That's not having respect for my boundaries, because you're not thinking about my job and you're not thinking about me. So crossing boundaries, like I said, is not just one thing. Crossing boundaries, it's a lot. Another faux pas that I find, me, nobody else, me, is, and I spoke to Dr. D about this today, which is when these children that are growing up today that are 10 years old, 11 years old, and they're like, little boys that feel like little girls, and their moms and dads automatically, oh, well, I'm going to put you on hormone treatment at 12 years old or 13 years old. And then eventually by the time they're 16, they get a sex change. I'm sorry, I'm gay, but I don't deal with that shit. I don't believe in that. I believe that when you're an adult and you're past 18 and you're able to pay for your shit on your own, then you know what? Go to therapy. Learn about it. Nowadays, people don't go to therapy. Before it was a requirement. Now it is not. So some people live as women, but it's not a requirement for them. They just do it because they know that it makes them happy. So at the end of the day, it's not the way it used to be. So I understand why sometimes society becomes afraid of what's happening to the world, and they try to overturn laws and situations in this country. When in reality, one of the biggest boundaries that are crossed is that the United States is one of the biggest human trafficking worlds, one of the most biggest human trafficking country. And also, it's one of the biggest country that's filled with pedophiles. And, men going out with these young girls and then they use it in the name of God or Jesus, you know. Of course, it's the white Jesus, but they use that whole thing. Well, you know, in church I learned this, and in church I learned that, and da da da, and the Bible says this, and you can have as many wives. You know, that's not really what it is. You know, the only race that can marry and have many wives are Muslims, and they're actually more Arab Muslims that can afford to maintain more than one wife, because as long as you can maintain your wife, and you can maintain a wife to a certain level where you're always taking care of them and taking care of your kids. If you have kids from them, then I'm not saying it's right or perfect, but it works because you're supporting, you know, however many wives you have, you're supporting them all. And as long as you can support them to the custom that you're used to living, if you're wealthy, then you know if you can be with them in that level, then you're not really crossing boundaries. But when you start dealing with little kids, that's a boundary that you don't cross. And personally, I think you should be shot, because I think it's stupid. I think that how I don't understand for the life of me how an adult man or adult woman can find pleasure of pleasuring a freaking child that's 7, 8 years old. I don't get that. And unfortunately, in this country, it happens. In every country, it happens. I'm not gonna say this is the only country. In many countries, it happens because in Muslim countries, you know, they marry these little girls to these prince, but there are rules and regulation, and the rules is, you know, you don't sleep with them until they have their period. To me, if the girl has a period at 12 and you sleep with them, you're just as nasty as these pedophiles. So again, these are all crossing boundaries. If you have a wife or a girlfriend that is constantly arguing with you, and you're bringing home the bread, and and she has children, and you're taking care of her children, that's crossing boundaries. And you cannot allow any woman to cross a boundary, especially if you're taking care of their child. The same thing with men who are single fathers, and they meet somebody in their lives, and these women start to mistreat their children. If you allow them to mistreat your children, that's crossing boundaries. It's not healthy, not for you, not for the child, not for anyone. All it's going to do is make you resentful, and then it's going to get really ugly. And resentment is something that will continue to give and give and give and give and give. Meaning that resentment is a negative vibration that keeps on giving. You know, it's like syphilis and gonorrhea and VD and chlamydia. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It doesn't stop. So, you know, these are boundaries that you have to learn about. You know, if you're in school and you want to master something, and you're there and you feel like, oh my God, I'm so bored, I'm so tired, or this or that, that's a boundary that you don't want to cross, because at the end of the day, when you cross that boundary, you either choose to stay in school, or you choose to get out of it and then work at another pace. You want to do that. You want to continue to work on the pace that you're working. You want to continue to move forward on what you're doing. And communication, like I said, is the key. And if communication doesn't work, stop bitching and complaining about the partner you're with and walk away. But if you're not walking away, then obviously you like the bullshit. So, you know, this is where I'm telling you that, you know, if you're going to call me with some nonsense, you better expect me to go tell you I'm going to charge you this amount of money, and you're going to pay me. Because at the end of the day, I'm not wasting my energy, my spiritual energy, and nor do I expect anyone else to waste their stupid energy, their spiritual energy, giving someone some advice, and they're going to act like stupid asses and not take the advice, and then complain when things continue to go and spiral backwards. Okay, so child, this today is about crossing boundaries and stepping over boundaries and not respecting people's boundaries. So we are going to do some meditation today. We're going to do some breathing, which is about to remove, or let's just say to continue, so we can continue on the healing process of deciding how we're going to choose to move forward in the healing process without crossing boundaries to hurt anybody we're with, because that is important, not to cross those boundaries. It's very important to love yourself, love one another, love the people that surround you, and if they don't make time for you, then you know what, you know where they can go, right? So at the end of the day, you have to be able to do you, and you have to be able to be careful and always check yourself when you feel that you're crossing a boundary, because you don't want to, and you should not want to have to cross boundaries that have nothing good that will come out of it, only bad energy. Let's not continue to create negative vibrations by constantly complaining and bitching about what you didn't do, what you didn't get, and how you're being treated. Life is like that. When life throws you lemons, you have to learn to make lemon pie, meringue pie. You have to learn to make lemon pudding and lemon cake and sorbet. You have to learn to make it all, because you can't boo-hoo yourself every time somebody, you're hit with lemons. Sometimes you got to count how many lemons are in a bag that they throw you, so that you can divide them and know what you're going to do with each lemon. Not deal with it and then continue to hold it and not worry about it. You have to always, always, always confront the demon that is around you and inside you, because we are all children of the universe, but we are also children of the most highest God. And sometimes we are so emotionally saddened by the things that we have seen that we believe that that is the way that we treat people. Everybody has a breaking point if they're being messed with. But people who drink and people who get high have a shorter breaking point. So at the end of the day, you want to be a good human being, don't get high, don't drink. And if you're going to drink, don't drink to get drunk and act stupid. I drink wine. Years ago, I used to drink rum and I used to do coke. I don't do drugs. I drink wine. Once in a blue moon, I get myself a bottle of wine. I'll have 2 or 3 little sips of wine, put it in the refrigerator, leave it there for months. And when I am ready to have a couple of glasses of wine, this to me is a glass. It's a flute, but this is a glass to me. So because this is a glass of wine, I'll drink 2 or 3 of them, and I'll feel like I'm feeling which is feeling nice. I'm not feeling drunk. I'm not feeling high. I'm not even feeling too mellow. I'm just exactly where I need to be. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the flavor, the aroma, and the robust, you know, the weight of the wine, and how, it's not so bitter. So, like I said, sometimes when we get high, when we drink, we say stupid things, and that is why it is not appropriate, or it should not be appropriate, for you to get drunk or for you to get high so that you can insult somebody else. No, it's not worth it, and that is crossing a boundary that you should never cross, because today they're there and tomorrow they'll be gone. And then you will be sitting down in the corner of the road waiting for them to come back, and they will never come back. So, for both men and women, because I can't just blame men, I have to also blame women, because women they allow men to do to them what they want to do to them. And sometimes when things are getting rough, instead of you calling it out or sitting down, you allow your partner to tear you to pieces and say things that are not true, and you stay quiet, because in your mind you're like, well, I don't want to rock the boat, and I don't want any problems, and I don't want any fights, and I don't want this. The hell with a fight. The hell with whatever. You understand? They call you out, they try to get stupid, you call the cops, you get them out. It's simple. Yes, the police have a problem in this country with people of color, but sometimes you have to be able to call the cops and say, listen, I'm being abused emotionally and I don't like it, and I need you to escort this person out and not be afraid of the repercussions, because if you are afraid that you're going to end up alone, that it only proves and it speaks volumes of how much you trust God, your God. So if you walk around telling me how you're a Christian and my God is so powerful and all this stuff, and then you're going to be having doubts, then that shows that it's a facade. You're playing with things that you don't understand, and you're talking about a God that should be a God of your understanding, that should be a kind God, that should be the Father of the highest, most powerful God. But if you don't, then he's not powerful and he's not high up. He's just a mediocre God, because he's allowing you to sideswipe yourself, to constantly say, I'm going to change, and you don't change. If you want something and you want respect from people that know you, or you want respect from your family, do the things that you have to do to heal yourself and continuously do the work. And don't preach to somebody about having a man respect you if your man doesn't respect you. And that is very, very important, that you understand that you understand that no child has the right to cross boundaries and talk to their parents however they want, and no parent should go cross boundaries and talk to their children however they feel that they want. If a child is not doing something right, it's up to you, either the men or the women, to sit them down and say, listen, you know what, I didn't appreciate this, and I'm going to explain to you why, and then explain it, because children are smart, they're bright, they're not dumb. Actually, we adults are more dumber than these damn children. So, sometimes we have to look within ourselves and look within everything that surrounds us and ask ourselves, am I crossing a boundary here? Am I disrespecting this person by crossing their boundary? Or am I just trying to communicate so that I don't have to overcome, or I don't have to cross over their boundary? And I think that if you constantly check yourself, you will start to realize that it is much easier for you to just sit down with your partner and say, look, I need to do this and I need to move forward. And that's why some people say it and it's a quote, but I'm going to say it because I am worthy of these words, because I believe that, you know what I'm saying? Which is, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, it's like, you cannot allow someone to cross the boundary where they think that they can control you and keep you a prisoner of your own self. And you have to realize, as a human being, that you don't owe anyone that. You don't owe anyone time in prison. You don't owe that. And the minute you allow them to cross the boundary and not respect you, what you're doing is you're giving yourself a sentence. And then it's just a matter of time before it becomes a life sentence of ignorance and stupidity. So you need to check yourself and ask yourself on a constant basis, do I want to live a life of stupidity and ignorance, or do I want to live a life of peace and harmony within myself? And if you decide that you want to live a life of peace and harmony, then you're going to have to start checking yourself, checking what you say, how you say it, and when is appropriate for you to say something that is bothering you, but sitting the person down and saying, listen, I want to talk to you about something. Can you spare 5 minutes so that we can talk? And don't bring up the past, please, because that's the biggest faux pas, is to bring up the past of things that have happened to you. If you're with somebody and things have happened in the past and shit is still happening, then it's time that you wasted too much time. And nobody should ever dictate the time that you have and make you waste time and show face, because wasting time is such a shame, because one of the things that the universe provides is time. And if you're wasting times, then you are doing just exactly what you would probably tell someone, oh, don't waste your time, or don't do this. No, you can't waste time on the things that are important to you. You have to move forward on the things that, not that are important to you, but that matter. Because you can say, well, this is important to me, but it won't matter. You can tell me, well, this is really important, but then when I see you going backwards and saying, but wait a minute, you just told me that it was important for you not to do this, but yet you're doing it. So how important is it to you? Again, stepping on boundaries, but these boundaries are crossing your own boundaries, stepping on your own boundaries, crossing them and stepping on them and pushing them. And that's a no-no. You need to accept boundaries, and you need to fulfill your life goals and dreams that you have with the person you're with, because you chose that person. That was the spoon you chose to eat with. So you have to understand that it is very important that you do so, and you continue to do so, because it is important. This meditation that I'm going to put on, it's for anxiety. What's a little loud? This meditation.
And welcome to this meditation to help you reduce anxiety. First, I'd like to invite you to gently close your eyes and take a nice,
I want you to listen to this.
deep breath in.
Hold on, let me begin it.
Deeper than you've Hey there.
And I want you to pay attention to this, guys,
help you reduce anxiety.
because we only have a few minutes.
First, I'd like to invite you to gently close your eyes and take a nice, slow, deep breath in. Deeper than you've taken all day so far. And as you exhale, concentrate on the sound of my voice, allowing it to ground you into the present moment, giving yourself permission right now to focus on you, making yourself your first priority. There is nowhere else you need to be. There is nothing else you need to be doing. For the next several minutes, your well-being is your focus. Continue to take slow, deep breaths, allowing each inhale to be a bit deeper than the one before it. Feeling your lungs expand out as you inhale, holding it for a beat, and contracting back in as you exhale. And as you continue to breathe this way, feel the journey of the breath through your body. And notice any places where you may be holding stress or anxiety in your body. Unfurl your brow, unclench your jaw, and let your shoulders drop down from your ears. Open your palms. And now allow your breath to return to its normal rhythm and pattern, but keep your focus on it and allow it to be your anchor during this meditation. If you get distracted by a thought or a sound, simply acknowledge that it occurred and then gently let it go and return your attention to your breath. When we're stressed or anxious about something, it's often because we don't feel we have control over it. And this sense of being out of control can make us feel less safe and our emotions heighten. An understandable reaction to this is that we try to control the situation even further. we also tend to judge the situation and even our feelings about it. Those judgments and the stories we tell ourselves about it often become bigger than the situation itself, which adds on even more stress, and the cycle repeats. So right now, I invite you to call to mind a situation that you feel is causing you anxiety. What judgments are you holding about it? As you name the judgment, acknowledge its presence. Now give the judgment permission to drop away. You don't need it anymore. Let it go. And what's the story you've been telling yourself about the situation? As you recognize it, acknowledge its presence. And give that story permission to drop away as well. You may notice your mind pushing you even harder to hold on to those judgments or those stories. And recognize and acknowledge those thoughts too. And now allow them to drop away as well. Continue to use your breath to anchor yourself back in the present moment. If you get distracted, now let's look at that situation again without the judgment or the story you were telling yourself. How does it feel different? Has the level of anxiety or stress changed? Instead, I invite you to look at the situation with total curiosity. And now, as we move into the silent part of the meditation, give yourself permission to open up to the clarity and direction on what the very next step for you to take is. Not the next 5 or 10 steps. Not all the steps to the end. Just the very next step. And continue breathing with your eyes closed. Just let your attention start to focus back on my voice. Our judgments of and stories we tell ourselves about a situation tend to exaggerate our feelings of unease, anxiety, and stress. They can skew what's actually going on out of proportion. They can block us from seeing the truth of the situation and allowing in the ease and comfort we so desire. So the next time you're feeling anxious, remember to breathe, and then notice and acknowledge the judgments about it and the story behind it. Then let them drop away and notice how the anxiousness eases. Focus on the truth of the situation in this moment. You have everything you need right now. Now let's take 3 more deep breaths together. Take a deep inhale in, holding that breath for a beat, and exhale it out. Again, an even deeper breath than the one before, feeling it weave in and out of your muscles and cells. And exhale it out. Last time, your deepest breath yet, sending that oxygen all the way through your entire body. And when it reaches the top of your head, and you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thanks for joining me for this meditation and for giving yourself this gift. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that. It is 9:56 and I will be logging off. We're going to go to commercial. I'm going to log off and you guys will be seeing me on Monday. Those who want to get read, you have my phone number there, 862-202-9357. Again, area code 862-202-9357. For the people that I asked to please subscribe to Dr. D's channel, please do so because I am part of her channel as well. And I would really appreciate it, and so will she. If you want to learn how to make stuff that is vegan food, vegan pastries, feel free to reach out to her because she is a culinary chef and she does make a lot of vegan stuff that it's not made with any preservatives or anything like that. So I'm going to say Auf Wiedersehen now. I send you light and love to everyone. Thank you for joining me on my show. And we will speak next Monday. Dr. D, I will talk to you tomorrow morning because as you can see, this little wine did its little number on me. So I'm gonna turn in early and I will talk to you tomorrow at one point because I have a reading at 10:30 in the morning. So I'm going to let you guys go. Light and love, peace and blessings, and all these wonderful things. May you be loved. May
Intuitive Life Coach, Ori. Make an appointment today, 862-202-9357. Bendición and blessings to all. You can find Ori's books on, I forgot which website, but we'll come back to that. But reach out to Ori and make an appointment today. Bye, everybody. Toodles.